Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Amazon Music, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Brittany Plumari. She'll be here to celebrate how to cure a mind monster and Monster Manners Lab.
Hey, Jed, I'm so excited to talk about our Solve It for Kids podcast, which is a great way for teachers and parents to get their kids excited about science and STEM, don't you think?
I do. We need some really fantastic scientists, engineers, astronauts, aquanauts, artists. They're telling us amazing things. And like you were saying, getting kids excited. I think that is the first step to helping them learn.
Exactly. And what we're teaching them about is STEM careers. Maybe these are jobs that they might think are really cool to do. And some of them are unexpected.
And you have another resource for families. You're creating these teacher packs, right?
Right. So what we've done is we are starting to take all of the podcasts and make teacher packs, which you can find on Teachers Pay Teachers. Look us up at Solve It for Kids on Teacher Pay Teachers, and we have a questionnaire that kids will fill out. They can draw pictures, all of these kinds of things, and it's all aligned to either Common Core or NGSS, Next Generation Science Standards.
And there's also little mini podcast episodes that kids can listen to. Remind everybody where they can find out more about this great resource, Jennifer.
Check us out on Solve It for Kids at Teachers Pay Teachers. You can also find us through the website, solveitforkids.com.
Join us right now for one of my favorite places in the world, the central part of the Garden State of New Jersey. I haven't asked her what exit she lives near, but we'll do that later. She is the author of the Monster Manners Lab series, and today we're going to start our conversation speaking about how to cure a mind monster. Please welcome to the show, Brittany Plumari. Brittany, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited that you're here. Brittany has something in common with my beautiful wife. She is a teacher, and she just 6 months ago she was teaching in a classroom, and then they told her, you are going to become a Zoom virtual teaching expert. And how did that work out for you?
At first, it was definitely a learning curve. I had to learn Zoom, something that I have never used before, but now we are getting the hang of things, and my class is awesome this year. Everybody jumps on when they're supposed to, so we're trying to make the best of it.
That's great. I mentioned that because everybody's gone through this. This is just an incredible time, and it's been very stressful. Parents, have gone from sending their kids off to school to suddenly becoming their homeschooling paraprofessional, helping to support their kids' education in a much bigger way. And teachers have been expected to really, just turn on a dime and go from teaching in person, the hands-on approach, to being separated and just connected with technology. And I just want to give a big, shout out and a high five to all the parents and all the teachers out there, because you've done a great job.
It's definitely not easy, and we could not be doing as well as we are without the parents.
Yeah. So let's talk about how to cure a mind monster.
Yes, how to cure a mind monster. Well, I have my own little mind monster. He is 3, and he was starting to get into this stage of constantly telling me that everything was his. It didn't matter what it was mine. So one day I just did a little, kind of like a rhyme. It just kind of came out, and I was just like, clap your hands, jump, stop, turn, and it worked. And all of a sudden he was just having more fun than being this little mind monster. And this was actually my 3rd book that I had written. So I was like, oh, that's a pretty fun book to kind of write and geared towards toddlers because there's not many for them. So that's exactly how that came to be.
Yeah. And, I'm guessing from the title, The Monster Manner Lab, that your series is all about helping kids learn good manners.
Yes. So there's a couple. They're all written. They're being illustrated one at a time. So My Monster's out, and the next one that's coming out is The Whiny Werewolf.
The Whiny Werewolf.
Yeah. So it's going to be all about how to redirect from the whines into a fun little howl.
Yeah. I don't know if here, I know as I travel around, this thing we call manners, it's very different in different parts of the states, and of course different in different parts of the world. One of the things I noticed the first time I traveled down south to perform, I was initially shocked, and I thought I was being punked, to be honest with you, when I would bring kids up on stage and speak to them, and everything was, yes, sir, no, sir, how are you, sir? And it was like this uber manners, and like I said, at first I thought kids were kind of goofing on me, being from Boston and being used to performing in New York and New Jersey, and then I really started to like it. And when I came back to the Northeast and experienced life here in the Northeast, I realized I think I like a little bit more manners up here. Maybe the South could chill out a little bit, but boy, I'd love it if we could instill a little bit of manners up here. What was your motivation to start writing on this topic?
Well, as a teacher, just kind of what you said, it got a little tiring having to correct them all the time, saying, well, what do you say? You say, please, thank you, just kind of prompting how to always, show any kind of manner, opening the door for somebody, just being kind in general. So when he started acting like this, I was like, it has to be started when he's younger in order to instill it. So I thought, what not better way than just a fun little rhyme that could kind of stick with them? Because the whole entire book is interactive. Mm-hmm. So it's asking them to use kind words, and what word could you say instead of give me what word, so it's making them have to come up with, oh, please. So it's really cute watching my 3-year-old think about it going, oh, please, thank you. So it's kind of on them to think of the kind words that they should be using.
And that's really a great skill, I'm thinking, for kids. It's a great exercise in getting them to think. They're just not parroting things back. They're actually, I want this to be a pleasant, they might not be using these words in their brains, but they're going through, I want this to be a pleasant exchange. I love my mom. I want that thing, but I also want my mom to love me and not be mad at me. And what word am I going to use? And this one?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Very cool. Where do you think, because I'm almost 100 years old, so life was different when I was growing up. If we didn't use those words, we'd learn really quickly because we would get a very unexpected reminder. But where do you think we lost that? Where do you think the breakdown was where, as a 4th grade teacher, you're needing to remind kids to say please and open up the door for people?
We live in a world now where parents are really hardworking. Mm-hmm. They're barely home. If they're home, even myself, I'm guilty of it too. I'm working, especially now, really late. So it kind of fell more on, we weren't realizing as much as we were just kind of giving them what they wanted, so we were able to continue what we were doing. And that's where it kind of was a setback because, back then, moms are always home. Mm-hmm. Somebody in the family was always home. The kids weren't going to somebody else all day long. So I think that definitely plays a part in us not really paying attention because we're just so busy all the time.
That's really fascinating, the idea that we're not really paying attention. We're distracted. We're over here. We're doing this work. Our kids are mine, gimme, and I got to shut this kid up here. Here, take it, go. And that really doesn't, that's not great for the kid, and ultimately I don't think it's great for the parent either.
I know. It definitely took me a second when I realized one day when he was just constantly saying it, and I just kept giving it because I was so distracted on doing what I was doing for, work. And then one day I was like, wait a second, what are you supposed to say? And he knew it. He was like, please. And I'm like, then it needs to start with please. And then it was more of me reverse psychology, like, okay, so now this is what we're going to have to do every single time. How do you ask, please? it's just an extra step that I forgot to use for a while.
And I'm guessing that when you remembered to use that, it didn't break. Your child didn't have a breakdown. He survived it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very quick. He was just like, okay. So now he's always using his manners, please and thank you, because he doesn't say thank.
So very, very important. What's the response been to folks who've checked out the book?
I mean, an overwhelming great response. At first, I was really nervous about it because my first two were written completely in rhyme, and that had taken forever. I took courses. I did a ton of writing events and trying to edit them and mentors, and I took a total curve and I went on to interactive. And, one of my mentors has said, interactive is not really something that many people use. And I got nervous. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know if I should do this anymore. And then I put it out to a mom group and I gave it to a ton of them for free. And the response was overwhelming because there really isn't many books for toddlers, especially with trying to teach manners, especially interactive. And it's fun for the parent and them. The parents are being engaged and talking to them in a way that we don't really talk to them saying, oh, what would you say? They're 3. Yeah. So it was just an overwhelming great response that I decided to push through and continue it.
It's interesting on 2 levels. It's interesting that you would hear from folks, don't be interactive with kids. Because that's the reason I've been able to perform at so many schools for the past 30 years is that my show is totally interactive. It's not about me being up on stage saying, look at me, how great I am. It's like we bring kids up on stage and they become the star of the show. And after the show, the kids are thinking, do you remember when Brittany did this on stage and Joey did that? And then, and who helped her? I don't know, some guy with a weird hat on. And that's the way it should be. But the other thing that surprises me is that creative people are telling you not to be creative.
Yeah, I think it's just really unheard of. It's not something that many books have been doing. It's more so it's a story. A story has a beginning and a middle of an end. And it's only interactive when the teacher makes it interactive. If the teacher's reading a story like I do all the time, I'll say, I'll pause it and I'll ask the question. You don't really see most authors asking a question. But who I'm gearing it to is toddlers. And not every parent's a teacher, so I wanted them to be able to ask the questions for them to get a response. And that was like the teacher in me, because I was like, this is more fun when I ask Noah how he's feeling and what he should say. So it definitely was a chance, and I'm very glad that I took it. I definitely think conversation, especially this young, is great to have with your child. I didn't even realize, how he thought or what his, everything about him. He's just so funny and a little human at 3 that I was just kind of letting pass by because I was so focused on life and what I was supposed to be doing that I was letting it slip by, and I will never let that happen again.
I'm so glad you said that. I think, as I look back and, my kids are 24 and 28, I think back to some of the happiest times we're just sitting down with a book with my kids when they were 2, 3, 4, 5, and talking about the book and hearing their opinions and seeing them kind of light up with pride that, hey, this person that I really look up to wants to know my opinion. This person values my opinion. And those moments are so important. They're better. They're better than any boat you could buy with all the overtime money that you're going to earn doing all that extra work. Leave that and sit home and spend time with your kids.
Oh, 100%.
Tell me, as you're thinking about this and as the book is getting out there, do you ever think to yourself, there's going to be a family in Saskatchewan and California and northern Jersey, and they're going to be reading this book, and they're going to be doing these interactive things together. Do you ever think about that? And if you do, what do you think? How does that make you feel?
The first book I ever wrote, I had said, I'll be happy if one person buys it. That's not my mom. And then the more responses that I got, and, my first one, The Merslings, is geared towards my kids' age in school because, they were my inspiration for, trying to teach values. Mm-hmm. So when they had such a great reaction and parents were sending me pictures of them reading it, and I got one picture of everybody cuddled up on the couch, and it was such an incredible feeling. It's hard to put into words to know that my book brought everybody together. So that was just definitely something that I was like, I love doing this now just because it is bringing that time of the day where people are sitting down and interacting and talking, and, it's a great side job, I would say.
Yeah. Well, what inspired you? Because you're a parent, you're a teacher. It's like you got a lot on your plate as it is. Where did you find the energy and the inspiration? What inspired you to exert that energy to become a children's author?
I wanted to show Noah pictures. So when I started making up these stories in my head and saying them and reading them to him, I wanted to be able to put a picture to it. So he would be looking at it and we were together. And the first time we brought home the book, the first one, it was The Merslings, and he ran to it and he was only, he was still 2. And he was like, "This is Mommy's book. And he freaked out. And just in that moment, I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this because not only do I love doing it and do I love the messages that I'm trying to say, but my son is like so proud of me. Everywhere we go, he's like, "This is Mommy's book. This is Mommy's book." So he's definitely the biggest inspiration in everything that I do.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. And what a great memory you're going to be able to share with him when he gets a little bit older, and and he's going to high school, and you're reminding him, "Hey, when you were 3, you were really cute. Now you're a teenager, you're not so cute."
That's where he was these two. The Perfect Lullaby was one that I had written when I was rocking him one night, just in my mind. It was one of the rhyming practices I was doing, and obviously the toddler manners. But the Merslings, I have to give credit to my students because I wanted them to understand values in a fun way, because sometimes we just lose ourselves in objects and materials and being mean, and they're getting to that age where bullying seems to be fun. So I wanted to bring them back to reality of, kindness is key. You want to cherish people and realize what you're doing. Put the shoe on the other foot for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have to tell you, I was sharing with Brittany before the show that I've literally done thousands of anti-bullying shows in New Jersey. New Jersey is one of the first states to adopt a law that every school had to address the issue of bullying. And because I was out there, one of the first performers who had a show, it was like almost every town in New Jersey had me, and it was wonderful. But I have to tell you, that was 2003 was when that show launched. It's really depressing these days when I turn on the TV and it's a mistake that the local news or national news is on TV, and you're hearing all these supposed adults, responsible people, and they're just engaging in bullying behavior. And it's both sides of the political aisle. It's all of the advocating groups. I mean, folks there's lots of things to be angry at. There's lots of things that we need to do to make this country a better place. But boy, we could do it in such a better, more polite and respectful way.
Oh, 100%. And it doesn't even show all the great things that they do.
Mm-hmm. 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 Do parents, this is a question, you're teaching your fourth graders values, and they inspired you to create this book. And yeah, we talked a little bit earlier about the fact that, maybe we forgot to teach our toddlers values because we were so busy. But do parents understand just how many outside influences are teaching values to their kids that may not be the values that the parents want their kids to have? Things like the media, music, television, movies.
I definitely think they're starting to. Yeah, for sure. I definitely think, especially with 9 and 10-year-olds, they know way more than I ever did at 9 and 10. Mm-hmm. And I think it's definitely starting to click. And I have to be honest, there's not a parent that I met that is not a great parent that's trying to steer their kid in the right direction and doesn't want to do everything to make it better for them.
Yeah. So important. I remember, it was before my kids were born. I was, my wife and I were running a summer camp at an inner city church, and I was driving the van and we're going to the pool, and one of the kids turned on the radio, and the 5 and 6-year-old started singing along with the song, and they knew the words. And when I heard the words, I was horrified. I was like, what? Shut that off. We're not doing this. And I'm like, I was just blown away. And I was happy because the following summer my son was born, and it was like this moment. I said, when my kids come around, I'm going to be aware of what they're watching. And I know that they saw a lot more than I knew that they saw. But, I'm going to be aware of what they're listening to, what they're watching on TV. And we're going to talk about it. Just like you talked about picture books when they were young. Hey, let's talk about this music you're listening to, the video games you're playing, the TV that you're watching. Let's sit down and talk about this.
I definitely think that's key. Open communication is key. These kids love to talk. They want to be heard. They will spill everything if you give them the chance. Open communication is absolutely key.
Yeah. Hey, and Brittany, I want to share this little secret with you. Kids don't know about this, but when you're frustrated and you're tired of being the family Uber and you're driving your kids here and there, I love that, because I would always, the parents like, gee, I can't. I'll pick up your kid, no problem. And I had a big van, and I would take home 5, 6 kids, and I would just shut my mouth and drive the car, and they would forget that I was there, and I would know everything that was going on at that school. So if you want to be aware of what's going on at your kid's school, offer to drive the other kids around a little bit, and they'll talk, and you'll find out.
Oh, that makes sense why my mom always picked us up.
Hey, tell us where we can pick up more information about you, where we can connect with you online.
So I am on Facebook, Empathy Books by Brittany. I am on Instagram, Brittany Plumari Author, and I also have a website, www.authorbplumari.com.
Excellent. We've had a blast speaking to the driving force behind Monster Manners Lab, Brittany Plumari. Brittany, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Marla Benavides. We're going to be talking about homeschooling. We're not talking about what so many of you experienced back in the spring, where suddenly your kid was going to school one day, and then the next thing you heard is that you were going to become the teacher and become part of something called virtual learning. We're talking about traditional homeschooling. It's a really fascinating show. You don't want to miss it. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you are the author of a fantastic children's book, we would love you to be a guest on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, it's free. That's right, it doesn't cost a thing to be a guest on the show. You don't need to pay someone to facilitate your appearance on the show. That's how easy it is. All you need to do is to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the author's Click Here button at the top of the page, scroll down to where you see Be a Guest. That's all it takes. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, want to thank our guest, Brittany Plumari. Also want to thank my team, starting with my daughter Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Peggy Cotto. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank you. This has been such a difficult and stressful year, but you are doing it. You are doing a fantastic job as a teacher, as a playmate, as a friend, as a parent. And I want to thank you. And I want to thank you for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking to you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.